Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by mostvaluablepodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show. That was our NFL talk for this segment of Behind the Pen. There's a lot of info there. Hopefully you guys stay tuned all the way through. If you're on Blog Talk Radio, thanks for sticking around. YouTube, what's going on, guys? We're talking Bulls. Talking Chicago Bulls again, and we have to do it because obviously I'm joined by Luc Behannesy. It's great to have you on again. We whenever I have a chance to get this man in the studio, it's always a pleasure.
Wow, you're so nice, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Lucian. We got Bulls in the news yet again, and what a surprise!
18-18, beat the Cavs without Kyrie and Kevin Love. Nice.
Yeah. Well, did you hear that they want to hang a banner saying that the Bulls are like 5-1 against the Cavs in the regular season?
Yeah, and they were good against the Heat in the regular season too, and they had the big three. If you got something, you need something to hold on to.
Bulls, baby. We got Hoiberg in the news. We got Jimmy Butler in the news. We got Rajon Rondo in the news. We're going to talk about all of that. First, let me bring up the Fred Hoiberg conversation first with this Bulls team, because were you in this boat of before? Well, really, this offseason, were you for a transition period for this Bulls team? Were you ready for them to be bad this year? Or are you okay with the way they structured their offseasons? Trading Rose, signing Wade, signing Rondo?
I was wary of it. I definitely thought it was the wrong move. They should have just let Butler do his thing. I mean, they're doing it right now, but they should have let the roster do its thing with Butler and young guys. Instead, they went this old, weird route.
Yeah, and I think that's the right way to describe it, old and weird.
But once, last year when they didn't deal Paul Gasol, the precedent was set that these guys are not going to go for a rebuild unless they're absolutely forced to.
Absolutely, and I referenced that point a lot. You guys here on Behind the Pen have heard me say that. Yeah, I look at the current state of the Chicago Bulls. It's pretty much what we expected. Mediocre.
Just purgatory. Just
what else is new?
The only way they're going to win is if Jimmy Butler is scoring a ton, going to the free throw line. Somehow Doug McDermott and Mitch Hedge are hitting 3-pointers.
Yikes!
Because other than that, it's the worst offense ever to watch.
What was the stat you brought up before the show? It was about 3-point attempts made or whatever. Yeah, like in what was it, 32 games?
Yeah, is that the Bulls that the amount of games they go with above 5 3-point field goals made? Yeah,
so it was like the first time the Bulls hit more than 10 3-pointers in a game for the first time in 32 games. And they hit 13, which was a season high. But boy, that's a problem. Obviously, current state of the NBA, 3-point shooting, you need it. And you're relying on Nikola Mirotic and Doug McDermott. Those complementary players are not good. Just flat out not good.
I know it's not easy to just go out there and just get shooters. But there definitely was that option in free agency.
Of course. Yeah, but also at the same time, you see all the money that was being invested in free agency this year?
Yeah.
That's the CBA, the NBA, allowing guys like Mike Conley being the second highest paid player in the league.
It is pretty ridiculous.
It's unbelievable the amount of money, and that's a reason why Taj Gibson's going to be gone after this season. So if you think about it, look how productive Taj Gibson's been this year. Should they trade him? Because this has been such a conversation for years, and they haven't done it.
I mean, right now, Gibson and Lopez really function as their only reliable big man.
Absolutely.
So I mean, if you trade Gibson, they're definitely admitting that they're not going to compete this year unless you get some cheap big men in return.
Yeah, and that the way the Bulls are, at least the way the front office thinks, that's not in the cards. Trading someone for value, right?
Yeah, and I think nobody's been involved in more trade talks than Gibson. I think in his Bulls career.
I know, and yet he's still here, and he's going to get paid.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. I think he's still here
next offseason, but. We bring up Fred Hoiberg because he's been in the news. Apparently, he's on the hot seat, and for whatever reason, he's taken the brunt of the heat of the Bulls yet again being mediocre. And I don't know about you, but if anyone should be at fault for the way the Bulls have been the last few years, it's Gar Forman.
Yeah, I mean, how can anybody be mad right now at Hoiberg, especially because we knew exactly how the Bulls were going to be. He's doing exactly what he needs to do with the roster he has.
What did he say in his press conference, his inaugural press conference, Fred Hoiberg? He said, we're going to run the floor. We're going to shoot the ball. Gar Forman signs Rajon Rondo, who can't shoot, one of the worst offensive value in terms of value in the game. Yeah, he can pass. Okay, cool.
But there's no three-point shooters to pass it to.
He's going to dribble up half court, dribble some more, dribble in the paint.
Kick it out to Mirotic, who's going to brick it.
With like 3 seconds on the shot clock, and if that doesn't work, they just hand it off to Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler's like, damn it, again? We have to score 50 again? Who, by the way, is turning into a superstar in front of our eyes if he's not there already. But Fred Hoiberg should not be at fault here, because you look at the construct of this roster, how can he run his offensive system with guys like Michael Carter-Williams, Isaiah Cannon, who's like among the worst shooting, in December shot like 17%. Yep. And then your best two, like we mentioned, Mirotic and McDermott, your two best shooters from behind the arc. How are you going to rely on that? And how are you going to put the blame on him?
You just look at your two best three-point shooters. One can't play defense and one can't shoot threes.
Oh, McDermott's a liability. More than a liability on the defensive end. He can't do anything there.
It's kind of funny how directly teams go at him when
100%.
he's on defense.
Straight up. They ISO right at McDermott every single time. That's what keeps him off the floor. And then they invest in a guy in Denzel Valentine. I talked about this last week. The type of player the Bulls want him to be isn't the type of player that he is. He's a facilitator. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to him playing the point. Obviously, he is more structured to be a 2 or maybe a 3. However, his game as a facilitator who runs the floor, great court vision, but they're using him as a guy who comes off a screen and catch and shoot guy. He doesn't do that. He wasn't a good shooter at Michigan State. Coming out of the draft, it was documented that he couldn't beat his man off the dribble.
Yep.
What are you doing?
They're so desperate. They're trying to force him to be something he's not.
And they're trying to structure his game to the current, what is most needed with this current roster. That is not how you run a franchise. And this goes for him. I'm sorry.
I was completely surprised that after they drafted him, they didn't let him bring the ball up the court.
He should be a guy with the ball in his hands. And I talked about this with you off the air, that eventually Michael Carter-Williams is going to take over as the starting point guard. And we're seeing that now. And let's move on to the next conversation. Fred Hoiberg decides to bench Rondo because he's pretty much one of the worst valuable players in the league right now.
And it just makes no sense on the team.
I'm harsh on Rondo, but it's necessary. I've been harsh on Rajon Rondo since the beginning. It didn't make sense when they signed him. People were ecstatic. I didn't understand it. Because one, he clashes with almost every single coach he's played for. He even threw a towel at I mean, it was Jim Boylan, the assistant of the Bulls earlier this season. He already said, like, if I'm not going to play, I'm going to request a trade. Good. Get out of here. I'd rather see Jerry Grant on the floor anyway, even though he's just bleh. And that's what I said. That's the current state of the Bulls right now. How are you going to blame Hoiberg for this crapshoot you have on the court? Because you're relying on guys like Dwayne Wade, and we talked about this too. He's having a great season. But he's 36. He's going to die.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just rely on 36-year-old Dwayne Wade to be your second scoring option.
Can't happen.
His knee's going to fly out and hit someone in the third row.
Can't happen. I'm not arguing the Wade signing, though, because I did like it.
I like the Wade signing, but he can't be your second most reliable scorer.
Right. And even if the Bulls did go into this transition period, who better to have on your team to guide these young stars or prospects to get better? Wade. And
I think he's been a great mentor, especially
absolutely.
for Jimmy.
And that too, he's been great outside the Chicago Bulls locker room in terms of media presence and his marketability. Now he's on the Bulls, more exposure. But this Bulls franchise is in such disarray that they're relying on McDermott, Mirotic, your two complementary players. Bobby Portis has disappeared from the face of the earth. I don't know how valuable Bobby Portis is to this team anymore, and I don't know how they want to fit his game into the system, because really we haven't seen much of anything from him. He might just be bad. We don't know.
I mean, when I watch him, he looks decently athletic, but I mean, he just does not look like he's ever going to figure it out.
And if you move Taj, then he's going to have to fill in for Taj. He's that next step, because you're not going to have Mirotic on the floor most likely as your stretch four.
He doesn't play like a big man.
And he doesn't. He shoots from the elbow a lot. He's even shooting threes.
He'll knock down the elbow every now and then.
He could. No, he's got a nice shot.
He seems like he likes to shoot it with like two people in his face more.
Of course. No, he doesn't pass the ball. That's for sure. Talking about Bobby Portis there. But also, it's just more than that. And I think going back to the original conversation of Fred Hoiberg, it goes back to Gar Forman. It has to go back to the responsibility of the people putting together the roster currently It doesn't make any sense to me, man. It doesn't. The way they play, the way Hoiberg wants them to play, they don't have the right talent to do it.
Yeah, it's just a slow, painful offense right now.
So Rajon Rondo, final conversation with the Chicago Bulls. Thank you all for sticking around. YouTube, you guys are the best. Leave a like down below if you could. Call me an idiot. It's cool. I get it.
Don't do that.
You should not. Otherwise, Rondo, let's talk about him. What can you do? What can you do with Rajon Rondo right now?
Just cut the ties. I don't see what's so hard about it.
Get him out. Just do it. Done with him. Because coming back, like we said, he clashed with Carlisle. He clashed in Sacramento. He clashed 3 straight close. His last 3 teams, he's clashed with 3. Doc Rivers even. Doc Rivers, one of the best player coaches out in the game. He couldn't handle him. And you're talking about Rajon Rondo coming in after all this scrutiny with Fred Hoiberg the year prior about how he can't handle a locker room. You're going to bring this cancer in? Goes back to the front office.
It just seems like a typical Gar Forman move. And at this point, I don't see really any other team that Rondo can fit on except a team that needs to play someone.
I saw reports that the Cavs were interested in a backup point guard. So the Cavs might be interested in Rondo. I think he may have been linked in some report that I saw.
See if LeBron can shape him up. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know. Cavs are one team. That's the only team I got, honestly. As long as he's not on the Bulls, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't see anybody near contention wanting Rondo on their team.
And to end this conversation, why are the Bulls currently in the construct that they are today? It's because Gar Forman, the owners, and Paxson want the Bulls to be relevant every single year.
But, I mean, it's weird. The Bulls could easily make money and not be competitive.
Because they're one of the main media markets in the entire world. You talk about going overseas, Bulls jerseys all over the place.
They definitely brought in Wade and Rondo as recognizable players so they get people to come to United Center.
Sure, and you kind of convince the fan base that, hey, we're going to compete, we're going to be like a 7 seed and get bounced immediately.
Because, someone who hasn't followed the NBA relatively closely, like, whoa, Rondo and Wade?
Right.
All-stars.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, dude.
It's like, no, it's 2017.
Bad.
And
they're not good.
There's only so many times Wade can take it to the lane at this point, just get completely blocked by everybody.
And hope that, well, honestly, the Robin Lopez, dude, you know what? When we talk about it, looking back, the Rose trade was great. I was like, yes, I'm actually excited about the Bulls' future because you're getting good value from Robin Lopez. He's been pretty consistent at center, but you're relying so much on Jimmy Butler now, and pretty much he's their entire offense. So this is what was expected, pretty much. And I talked about the Bulls last week as well, but I got to do it. And it was great to have you to throw in your 2 cents, Luke, because it's not often I have you on the show, and it's great when I do.
Aw.
And you know why I have you on the show? This is the main reason why I had you on the show.
So we can talk about some D3 basketball. Let's go.
Well, maybe. What is that, Wichita State? Are they D3? No, Appalachian State. Is that D3?
I don't know. Let's Google it.
No, I don't care. Enough. Anyway. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more Most Valuable Podcast content, click on the video up above because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.